Hey guys, it's Peter Day here. Welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, we're going to jump into some things on essentially how to scale your business and be more on top of the numbers. I see a lot of things in the affiliate industry where the best way to describe it is people lack a clear direction. It's I don't know how many times you've been to an affiliate summit in 2024, and then you go to a different conference, and what you realize is that a lot of the people you run into, they haven't progressed much between really 2023 to 2024, or even from year after year. And a lot of them just don't have much of a direction. You run into affiliates and they're like, their business model is basically, well, I'm promoting one or two things, and I'm hoping that at this conference I just spontaneously bump into one or two things that will also work. And there's really, what you realize at the end of the day is they really don't actually have a direction or any kind of clear business model. It's like their business model is almost just kind of being spontaneous or random, and it's just by chance that they're kind of succeeding on a few of these things anyway. They kind of bumped into them. So what I want to give in this audio is some clear direction. How can you be more intentional about actually growing things, building your business, having more than just a couple winning campaigns or offers? I mean, because it is kind of the story of affiliate marketing as a whole. Like, I'm not saying everybody fits this bill, but it's like 80-90% of every single affiliate that you really ever meet, you talk to them and the narrative is that they have like one or two things successful. And there's so much more to be done in this business and this industry than just having a business where there's just like one or two successful things. So here's some tips in this podcast of how to break past this and how to really overcome this kind of situation, and how to have a more expansive type of setup where you have 5 winning offers, 10 winning offers, so on and so on. So the first thing is you have to be intentional that you're going to break out of this mold. If you don't actually have a plan, if you don't have intentions, if you don't have that clear direction, it's very likely that you're just going to potentially just slip back into what you've been doing. Let's say you're an affiliate and you run a lot of lead generation for personal loans, and then you have a little bit of pay-per-call for health insurance or something. If you're not intentional about it, it's very likely that in 12 months from now, you're still running personal loans and still running health insurance, and maybe by chance you stumbled across like one new offer at a trade show or something. But that's not really growing a business. That's just kind of like getting by sometimes, even with one or two offers. So how you can be more intentional about it is to make the decision in the first place that you're going to be more intentional about it. Just say to yourself, listen, instead of having like 2 winning offers, I'm going to set a realistic goal to have at least 5. And I recommend setting goals that are realistic. I think that it's important to be lofty, but at the same time, it's really important to be realistic. Let's say you're an affiliate, and let's say typically you've been able to succeed on 1 or 2 offers at a time. It's a little bit unrealistic for your goal to succeed on 15 offers by the end of the year or something. It's so unrealistic that it kind of defeats the purpose of setting the goal in the first place. It's like in the back of your mind that it's just very unlikely that you would like hit the unrealistic goal. It's as if our company decided that our goal next year was to do $1.5 billion in revenue. It's just so far-fetched because it's just such a far multiple of just like what we've been doing in the first place, and there's hardly been any business. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's something like that, to where it's like you set the goal and it's just, what's the point of even setting it, right, if it's unrealistic? So I recommend being kind of lofty, but also realistic. So I want to give a very simple example. In our business, I have a personal goal to bring in 7 new winning offers kind of ASAP. I mean, quite frankly, I I don't have like a timeline that's like written down on a piece of paper, but in the back of my mind, I need to be realistic, right? If I set this goal, I want 7 new winning offers. That's really what I'm trying to achieve here. It's one of my goals. I want it to happen as soon as possible. And a winning offer would probably be an offer that could at least do $3,000 a day to $5,000 a day. That's what I consider a winning offer these days. By the way, a winning offer doesn't have to be like 50 grand a day or 20 grand a day or some extremely lofty thing. I actually feel like those kind of offers have been more of the just rarities really in our industry, like an offer that's going to do 50 grand or 100 grand, like one offer in a day and stuff like that. What I've been considering a winning offer these days has been an offer that can scale up to at least $3,000 to $5,000 per day of revenue with a minimum profit margin of 20%. We really have a rule across our team. If you're listening to this audio for the first time, a little bit about ourselves, by the way, is our company is optimized to convert, and we run a team of internal media buyers. So that means the team that we have is in-house. We're running our own ads. We're not farming out or brokering. We don't have third-party affiliates. We're running our own ads in-house. And we have about 14 or 15 media buyers on this team. We plan to grow it more in the coming months, and keep an eye out for that as well. We do plan potentially in opening up some kind of hiring round potentially in the next 30 or 60 days where we would interview a lot of people and potentially bring on a few additional people. We only do open that up once in a while. I think the last time we did it was like 3 or 4 months ago. So keep an eye on that if you are interested in being part of our media buying team. We do behind the scenes anticipate a short opening here in the next month or two. And but a little bit about our team. We're running our own ads, and we oversee our team very tightly with my brother and I. And what I'm trying to say here, though, is that a lot of people are trying to view a winning offer as something that's like astronomical. Like, oh, if it's not 20 grand a day, if it's not like 80 grand a day, it's not a winner. We have a very different mindset these days. Like I said, we view a winning offer as an offer that does $3,000 to $5,000 a day of revenue at minimum profit margin of 20%. This 20% is really a rule across our team. Like if someone is not producing at least 20% profit on their campaigns, we really don't allow them to scale because we don't want to be running campaigns that scale at 5%, 3, 8% profit margin. It doesn't make sense. It really, the risk reward just kind of goes out the window. You don't want to spend that much money at a bad profit margin because what happens if a client doesn't pay you? You really have like no meat on the bone. There's nothing to show for it. It's like if the client, at least if your profit margins are like 20% or 40% or something good, if some client stiffs you or goes out of business or something, there's at least meat on the bone. Like there's some meat on the bone to where like, okay, you're able to cushion it somehow. But if you're running stuff at a 5% margin or some really junky margin, and then you're on post-payment terms and you're just like waiting 30 days to get paid, if you get stiff, there's like no meat on the bone. Like there's not much buffer and stuff. So we have a rule internally where the profits need to be at least 20% to scale. And we consider a winning offer anything that does $3,000 to $5,000 per day of revenue at the minimum 20% profit margin. So if you kind of think about my goal is to find 7 new offers in the next, ASAP is kind of the goal. But in the next, what does ASAP means? Realistically, 60 days, maybe 60 days. So my goal is to find 7 new winning offers at least in the next 60 days. A winning offer is an offer that does $3,000 to $5,000 a day of revenue at minimum 20% margin. So then now you can see how we are looking at things so much differently. This is so much different than the affiliate that goes to the conference that is just hoping that they stumble across an offer. This is very intentional. It's like, okay, 60 days, 7 new offers. Here's how we define a winning offer. Here's the margin we expect. And then you can do the math, and if we're able to accomplish the 7 offers at, let's say, $3,000 a day, that's $21,000 a day of revenue added to the business, and then minimum margin of 20%. is at least $4,000 per day of net profit added to the business times 30 days. It's about, $120,000 a month or more of monthly profit added to the business. And so there you go. So it's a very intentional goal. Now, what we need to do now is go out and actually diligently and aggressively work towards this goal. This goal is not just going to fall in your lap. I mean, the goal, you're not going to just do nothing and the goal's going to happen. You're not going to go to, Contact.io conference or, lead gen, what is it, the conference in September, the leads you're not going to just go to one of these conferences and find like the 7 winners. It's possible, but quite frankly, you might go to one of the conferences and just find like 1 winner or 2. So it's even to find 7, you got to go above and beyond. Like what verticals are you going to go after? What sectors of the market? How are you going to find these clients? Are you researching? Like, are you spying? Are you researching on offers? And by the way, to find 7 winning offers that actually win, you probably need to bring on like 40 or something to find the 7 winners that win. There's a ratio thing involved too. So are you doing your research? Are you spying on Facebook, Native, Google? Are you spying? Are you putting together research sheets? Are you researching different verticals and different sectors? Let's say you want to get into motor vehicle accident, like MVA, just for example. Are you doing your research? Like, are you on Facebook? Are you spying on what the best MVA offers are? Are you looking up those offers on native spy tools? Are you putting a list together of them? Are you identifying what the winners are, right? And all of this is very intentionally being done. And this can happen in any vertical, whether it's solar or home services or personal loans. We recently did this in a different vertical, which I'm not going to mention on the show here, but it's just, what's important is just being intentional about this, because here's the reality of it. It's going to take an effort to get 7 winning offers in the next 60 days. It's going to take, it's not impossible, but it's going to take an effort, and there's a possibility we fall short. But the way I look at it is that even if we fall short, let's say we are to acquire 3 or 4 new winning offers. Let's say the goal is 7, but we fall short. That's still so much better and so much more intentional than what everyone else is essentially doing, that it is going above and beyond. So the first step is you have to have a clear goal that's realistic. For us, find 7 winning offers in 60 days is realistic. It's not going to happen overnight per se. It's going to require, if it's going to happen in 60 days, which is really only 2 months, and let's pretend we're not actually working every day, like the weekend and stuff, what that means is we're going to have to be diligently working towards this goal, like pretty aggressively, for the next 60 days, or else it's like very likely would not actually happen. So setting those goals, making it realistic, working towards it, and then knowing your numbers. What is the goal going to achieve? What's it going to do? And putting together a plan on how to actually do it. It starts with research. Are you going to research? Are you going to study? Are you going to be on the spy tools? Then how are you going to land these different offers? Are you going to land them through affiliate networks? Are you going to try to get them direct? Are you going to try to land them yourself? Do you need to hire a salesperson? Like, what's the strategy going to be? So these are all things that come into play. But one big shift that we had lately too in mindset is the whole concept that I was talking about of what a winning offer even is in the first place. Again, the team would just consider almost anything like that wasn't 10 or 20 grand a day, like some kind of failure. Like, oh, it's only 2 grand a day. It's only 4 grand a day. But what people fail to realize is that if the profit margin is good, even the small campaigns can really add up. Like, let's say you have a campaign that does $4,000 a day, but your profit on it is like $1,500 or something. Let's pretend it runs all 7 days of the week. That's a $45,000 a month campaign in profit. This $4,000 a day small campaign kind of thing. So what we've realized is, listen, we should not be kind of poo-pooing the small ones. The small ones are just as good as the big ones, they're just a little bit different. I actually like the small ones too because they have tended to be very steady. Like if you have a campaign at like $3,000 or $4,000 a day, it's like it's been kind of steady. There's a lot of reasons why it's been steady too. Sometimes, let's say it's a lead generation offer, okay? If you have a lead gen offer and you just try to go absolutely nuts and you just try to do like 70 grand or 80 grand a day on that lead gen offer, you are going to be under so much like eyeballs in terms of like quality of the leads as well. I'm not saying that our leads are bad quality. Our leads have generally been very high quality, but what I'm saying is that let's just say you have like a personal loan offer that you're running, and let's just say you single-handedly scale it up to like $80,000 a day. It's just so much volume that the personal loan company, they're just going to be looking at your quality like every day. They're going to be like, is this worth it? Do we want to be spending $80,000 a day on it? Are the leads good enough? It suddenly raises the caliber of like what your quality needs to actually be in order to be acceptable, because it's just like so much volume and so much exposure that, and then it might fall apart too. Because let's say you get greedy. You have to find a balance, right? You have to be scaling, you have to be making money, but you have to find a balance. I mean, again, let's just go back to that personal loan offer. Let's say you scale up to $80,000 a day, and let's say you get kind of greedy and you do that for like a week, and then you try to push it to like 90 grand a day. You could just like risk getting a phone call from the company just like 8 days later, like you need to pause because the quality is not working out for us, or we need to lower your payout, like 40%. It's just so much exposure. And our industry is kind of funny. Like sometimes you can just fly under the radar at lower volume amount as well. Like for example, like let's say you're running personal loans at $3,000 a day or something. You could maybe actually have like not the best quality. Like maybe the quality is like a 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10, but the company might not actually really be even looking at it or care because it's not getting on their radar screen. So I'm not saying that's the only reason to not go nuts, but there's exceptions. Like let's say you're running a personal loan and the quality is exceptional, like they're telling you have the best quality, then maybe go for it. But just keep in mind, there's a fine line. You don't want to get like so greedy on some offers to where you basically end up blowing the offer for yourself. And what we also recommend doing as well for this whole quality thing, the quality thing matters significantly on lead generation offers like pay-per-call, something where it's a lead and not a sale. But what you could also do for the quality thing is you can do a mixture of the quality as well. Like let's say, for example, you have some ads that are that don't make you any money. Like let's say you have some ads that break even at $5K a day, but then you have some other ads that are perhaps like less quality but still okay quality that get a good margin at $5K a day. You could even do a mixture. So you could have half your traffic going to the very high quality stuff that basically earns you no money, and then you could have the other half going to the stuff that does earn you a lot of money but is maybe a little less quality. So there's strategies like this as a lead provider that you need to be aware of, because sometimes it's not as cut and dry as just good or bad quality. Sometimes you have to be mixing the good quality with some of the less good, and there's a lot of factors that come into play, and sometimes it's just decisions as well. So for example, let's say you have some ads that are very good quality but they make you no money. Another completely opposite decision could be going to the company and say, listen, I can produce for you 10K a day, but I'm going to need a higher payout in order to do that. I mean, this is actually a strategy we're going to be using potentially this week with a company. Like we have some ads right now that are exceptionally high quality, but they are kind of like break even or a little loss. We're going to go to a company this week and say, listen, this stuff is, breaking even, is actually losing us like 20%, but we're so confident that the quality is there that instead of even bothering with any kind of like mixture of like good quality or bad quality or anything like that, like why don't you just pay us like 40% more money for these leads and let's just scale and call it a day, right? So there's all these different decisions that happen in the business, right? As a lead provider, as an affiliate marketer, there's all these types of decisions. And sometimes you are forced to do the decision that you're forced to do. Like, for example, let's say you go to a client and say, hey, the leads are exceptional, quality. Could you pay more for these leads? And the answer that they give you is like, no, we only pay $20 a lead and that's the most we're ever going to give anyone. Then that you might have to make a decision. Like maybe on that campaign, you need to do a little bit of mixing. Maybe you need to get, some very high quality ads running side by side with some ones that are, produce the ROI for you and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of, different strategies that you can implement. There's a lot of different techniques, but it's on a case by case basis. So what I also recommend doing too is mixing up your portfolio with some offers that don't involve quality. I'm going to be, there's a lot of offers out there like sale, and I absolutely, as a affiliate, as a lead company, I highly recommend diversifying your portfolio with at least some offers that don't involve actually like quality of the lead continuously, because it could just add a little bit of diversification. Like let's say that half of your business is lead gens and paper calls. The thing about that stuff is very good when it's good, but let's just say one day a client calls you and tells you that your quality slipped, for example, and they want to lower your cap or pause a campaign. You know what I mean? There's risk like that involved. So I'm not saying that you are to run away from lead gen or paper calls or stuff like that, but I highly recommend that you have a diversification of at least some offers that you're running that are, like a sale, like a VSL or an e-com or, a diet or, something that's like a ClickBank type of thing in a sense, where it's per sale, because it could just add a nice diversifier. It's really important to view your offers almost like a stock portfolio. Would you want to have all, tech stocks? Let's just say the lead gens and the paper calls, let's just say those are the tech stocks. It's like, do you want to have all tech stocks in your portfolio? They do well when they do well, but then when the market goes down, they crash sometimes steeper than the other stuff. Is maybe like some kind of analogy, but it's like if you view your offers like a stock portfolio, do you want to be all tech stocks, or do you want to be 60% tech and maybe you do 10% energy, energy stocks? Maybe the energy stocks are the VSLs or the straight sale kind of stuff. I mean, energy has done well in the last 3 years. The oil stocks and the U.S. energy companies, they've virtually tripled since coronavirus because of the oil price bottomed. And it's so let's just use that analogy. The lead gens and the paper calls are your tech stocks, your VSLs are your energy stocks, and then maybe another part of your basket is just kind of agency type of deals where a client is just paying you a percentage of spend to manage their campaign as like an exclusive agency. So that's actually, we do a tiny bit of that right now, to be honest. We tried it. There was a period of time where we were really heavy in that, like 7 years ago, but we actually got so frustrated because we felt like the clients were just like so demanding. Like sometimes, the client, do this, do that, do that. It was like, I guess because we were spending the money on the client's credit card, they felt like they could just kind of really jerk us around, like being, tell us what to do, when to do it. And it honestly felt more like having a job than it did a business. So we only have a very, very, very small handful of clients at the moment for the agency type of setup. Most of our stuff is lead gens and CPAs and paper calls and stuff like that. But it is something to consider if you're able to find the right client for the that agency type of model that's not going to like stress you out or not going to be telling you to pause or start the campaign like every other day or craziness. Like it is something to add to the portfolio as well. So another goal that we have as a company, this is more a just more larger goal. I don't think it's going to be accomplished in the next 60 days. If it does, I would be very happy about it and a little bit surprised even. But a goal that we have is to do another additional. We want to bump up our just revenues by $100,000 a day. Just like add $100,000 a day of revenue to the business, and we feel like there's a few ways to accomplish this. One way is to land some like incredibly large size offers for clients that could get there, but we think the more stable and realistic way is to actually take like the massive diverse way. So when we ran the math on it, the math is basically it's like 40 clients or offers, whatever your setup is, doing about $3,000 a day each, So it's something to keep in mind too, especially for the affiliates that are like, they kind of just do one or two things. It's when you hear these numbers, you're like, oh my goodness, like I'm nowhere near like 40. You might say to yourself, it's like you just want to put these things into perspective. You need to be running the numbers like significantly more, and I think that's really underestimated. Like a lot of affiliates think that they can just do one or two things and get away with that forever. But the issue is if the one or two things fail, it could be a really stressful situation. I've seen in our industry over and over again, there's affiliates that are just running a couple campaigns, and then the likelihood, like what if the one or two campaigns just stop working, or they have to pause, or it can't be profitable anymore. That kind of thing could put an affiliate like entirely out of business, or at least for a period of time or something. So I highly recommend diversity, and yeah, that's a goal for us personally. Is just we want to do $100,000 a day of incremental revenue. We're already doing six figures, multiple six figures per day of revenue even now, but we want to add. And in order to do this, you have to look at the goal and say, what's realistic? Are you just going to land like one client that does $100,000 a day? You could, but I don't know. It's like even if you do land them, is the thing even going to be sustainable, or you're just going to have like all your eggs in like one basket? And even if you land two clients at $50,000 a day each, is that sustainable, or are you just like putting a ton of eggs in like two baskets? So what we feel like the most sustainable thing to do would be to land like 40 clients or 40 offers at about $3,000 a day, and that would do probably over $120,000 a day of increased revenue. And then we always have that 20% minimum profit rule, so that would add like $20,000 or $30,000 a day of profit to the business, like $1 million a month of profit. So that's a goal that we have as a company, to do this incrementally. We want to be here by I don't know, like honestly next summer or something. This is a little bit of a loftier goal, 40 clients, but maybe next summer is too long. We should probably be setting the goal to be hitting this by like before the summer, maybe like May or something, like May kind of next year. So it's important. The reason I share these goals is because it's important to have goals in general, and then be thinking about how to hit them. I mean, one of the best things about having the goal in the first place is it forces you to sit around and figure out how to do it. It's like even when I get to work after recording this podcast, what's going to be running through my mind is like, okay, 50 clients by May, 7 in the next 60 days. Like, how are we going to do this? Like, how are we going to get the sales team moving more? How are we going to get more research and figure out what we're going to go after and, be cold calling and sending messages? Do we need to go to more trade shows, right? The goals get your head start to spin. Like, how do you actually accomplish these things, right? So I highly recommend that you have a clear direction, that you quantify it, that you're realistic, and Yeah, and then the realistic thing is really important though. Like if you're an affiliate and you've tendency, let's say your tendency is like succeeding on one or two things at a time. I honestly think that your first goal should just be able to succeed on like four things at a time instead of two. Like even that is doubling your business. You got to realize this in terms of percentage terms. An affiliate that's succeeding on two things at a time that begins to succeed on four things at a time has literally doubled the amount of offers that they have succeeding, and they potentially have just doubled their business. Like that's a huge thing. That's like going from like $100 million a year to $200 million a year or something on a wider scale. But don't underestimate how important these leaps and jumps can be. You know, even going from succeeding on 3 offers to 6, that's doubling your business. So look at these successes as big victories, even if they feel small. Stay positive. Understand that you need to run the numbers. You don't be fooled. You're not going to test 20 offers and find that 19 are winners. If that happens, that would be like a miracle in our industry. It's not been the standard. If you want to find 10 winning campaigns, you might have to test 30 or 40. Are you going to test 40 campaigns overnight or in the same week? Maybe not, but over time. And if you think about your numbers, think about the past. How many campaigns have you had to test to find those couple that are winning? My guess is you are going to, 10, 20, you've probably tested 20 campaigns to find the couple that are winners. So that's just been the reality of the ratio. So make sure you're working the numbers so that it's possible, right? It needs to be, it's a numbers game, really. It's a numbers game. You need to be running these numbers so that it's actually possible to hit the goals. So guys, I'm going to run now. I'm going to head to the office and just get some work done here. So enjoy this podcast, share it on social media, LinkedIn, go ahead and comment. Look out for the next episode in the upcoming weeks or so. And this is Peter, and we'll talk soon.